Hi everybody, I'm Emily with The Quilted Cow, and today I'm really excited to show you the That project from our October subscription box. First though, I'd like to thank our sponsors. We are sponsored by Creative Grids, Cutters, Mats, and Rulers, and Viking Husqvarna Machines. Let's get started. All right, so let's get started with this Ollie Tote. Like I said, it is the That project for the October subscription box, and it is a super fun tote to make. It is really nice. It's about a 13-inch by 13-inch and then about 3 inches wide. And the great thing is that doing a little bit of quilting on here makes it kind of have this squared off look to it. And it's such a wonderful tote. There's pockets all the way around inside. So I loved making this, and if you would like to get a kit for this, you can head on over to our website. The kits are going to include all of the fabric that you need for the tote. Check to make sure and see if the pattern is included in that, but the pattern is a standalone pattern as well. You can also find an add-on kit that we will be offering to get you your foam and your lightweight interfacing for the inside. So let's go ahead and get started with this tote. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to cut out some squares and some rectangles out of the fabrics. And we're going to start by making basically a square block. The next thing that we're going to do is add the next pieces onto the sides. So I start with the sides first, and then I add the top and bottom next. So once I've got that all sewn together, it's going to look like this. And so we're going to make a total of 4 of these blocks right here. They're going to measure about 10 inches, I believe is the measurement on them. So you're going to make 4 of these blocks right here, and then we're going to cut them in half diagonally. Grab your ruler and your rotary cutter, lay your block out, make sure it's pressed really well, lay your block out flat, and then meet the corners. So I've got the ruler on this corner here and on this corner here. Grab your rotary cutter. Now, if you'll notice, my corners in here are a little bit off. I'm not really worried about that because those will get caught up in the seam allowances. So I'm not too worried about making sure that I'm right on every single point. I just want to make sure the outside corners are what I'm measuring off of. You'll get pretty generally in a good general area of where you need to be on the inside of it. So grab your rotary cutter and just slice through that. All right, so I've gone ahead and done that. And I have some other pieces. Once you get this cut apart, you're gonna take it and you're gonna turn all of these pieces, all of the square parts, to the inside. But you're gonna just sew those together, and that's going to make your main block for the bag, for the main part of the bag. So once you've got this done, you're going to sew these together. Now, you don't have to worry too much. These here are the biased edges. You will get a little stretching on these, and you do need to watch out that whenever you put them together, you're just going to line them up. If you want to, you can put a couple pins in them and then stitch straight down that line. Same thing with this one. Then we're going to add the sides of the bag on, these border strips. So I've already got those cut. And obviously I don't have these sewn together, so excuse the shortness of the side borders. The reason why it's shorter is because the seam allowances haven't been taken in. So once we've finished with that, it's time to make the handles. Now the handles are pretty simple. The way we usually make our handles, we're going to use some lightweight fusible interfacing on the insides. Make sure that when you fuse that interfacing to the wrong side of the fabric, that the bumpy side is against the fabric. Don't want that bumpy side to get on your iron or on your ironing mat. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your strip of fabric and you're going to fold it in half and press that really well. Press that line really well. Then you're going to open it up again, and then you're going to press one side in towards the middle and the other side in towards the middle, and then refold along that center line and get yourself a really nice fold. Take it over to your sewing machine and top stitch all the way down both edges, all the way down both sides. So I've got one already done for you, so you don't have to sit and watch me top stitch that. Once I've got that finished, I'm going to grab a pair of scissors and cut this in half. Once I get that finished, it's time to put them on the main part of the bag. So what we're gonna have you do is we're gonna have you go ahead and find the center of your bag. So the center of my bag is right about here. I know this because I've made a couple of these now, but the center of my bag is right about here, and I'm gonna put the handle 3 inches on either side of the center of the bag. And then I'm gonna take this over to the sewing machine and baste it on within the 1/4 inch stitch, or the 1/4 inch seam allowance. You wanna make sure you're about an 1/8 inch seam allowance whenever you do this. So let me do that, and I'll show you what that looks like when I come back. Okay, so now that I have the handles basted on, I'm gonna set this to the side for just a few moments. I do want to work real quick on the pockets and the lining. So I've got my lining pieces cut out, and I have some lightweight fusible that I've already fused onto the wrong side of the lining fabric. Once again, making sure that the bumpy side is against the fabric, and it is on the wrong side of the fabric, not the pretty side. We're gonna go ahead and put that lightweight fusible on the back side of the pocket fabric, and I keep finding more and more threads. And then we're going to put these right sides together, and I like to go ahead and clip them and sew all the way down and backstitch at the beginning and end. And then once I've got that done, then I'm gonna turn it right side out to make the pocket. Now the pocket is the same width as the lining fabric. I'm gonna grab my ruler, and I'm gonna measure up from the bottom of the lining fabric, 5.5 inches, I believe it was. And then I come around with clips, clip that on just to hold it in place. And then once you're finished with that, then you can make your dividers in your pocket however you want to make them. Once you've got those divisions made, then you're gonna come in, once you have top stitched that pocket down, you're going to stitch your pocket divisions here. You're gonna put your lining right sides together, and then I use clips. You can use pins. I prefer clips, mainly because I stick myself too much with the pins. That's a tiny clip, okay. All right, so the next thing I'm gonna do is I want to go ahead and leave about 4 to 5 inches open on the bottom of the bag. I generally, depending on how fluffy the bag is, I generally just kind of say, okay, I want to come in a few inches from the side and then leave that open. So, but I would recommend at least 5 inches left open on the bottom of the bag, on the bottom of the lining of the bag. So I'm gonna just put a couple clips where I want to stop and start my opening. So that's 5 inches right there. And so I'm gonna start here on one side. I'm going to backstitch at the beginning, all the way down, all the way across till I get to about this clip. Go ahead and backstitch to reinforce that stitch. Stop sewing, pull a little extra thread out, come over and start sewing here. Go ahead and backstitch here to reinforce that, and then all the way back up to the side and backstitch at the end of the side. So I'm gonna do that with this one. The next thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and put my main fabrics, or my main bag, together. Okay, so now that I have both of those stitched together, while I was sewing these together, there were a couple of things I forgot to mention to you about the pockets. So one of those things was, whenever you set your pocket up and you're doing your divisions and everything, go ahead and baste about 1/8 of an inch from the edge, baste those sides down. Another thing I forgot to mention, when you're sewing your lining together both of the pieces, you do want to double check and make sure the top of the pockets are at the top of the lining. I've made this mistake before and had to go and use my seam ripper, and it's not a whole lot of fun when you have to do that. So these corners are pretty good. You'll notice that we have them boxed so that they meet up here on these corners of the main block on the bag. So in order to do that, we're actually going to box them at 1.5 inches. So to box your corners, I reach down into the bag, I stick my finger there in the corner, and then I squeeze the seams together. And then I'm going to make a nice triangle out of that seam. And then what you're going to do is grab your ruler. Sorry, let me get that pin out of the way. And you're going to line it up with where the point of the triangle meets, not the seam allowance, but where the point of the triangle is on the main part of the bag. And we're going to measure 1.5 inches down that line. So make sure that your seams are meeting here, and this is another important reason why we make sure that they're meeting. If they're not meeting, you're going to get a crooked boxed bag corner. So 1.5 inches from the end of the bag point, straight down that seam, hold that there, and then just draw a line just like that. Once you've got that line drawn, you're going to clip it. We'll go ahead and do this to the other side. All right, so then I do the same thing to the lining. All right, so when I take this over to the machine, I'm going to stitch directly on the line, back stitch a little at the beginning and in the end just to reinforce it, make sure that everything stays where I want it to stay. And then I'm going to show you what that looks like whenever I get back, and I'll show you how to trim off those corners. Okay, so let's go ahead and trim off these corners here. And very simply, once we've stitched on the line, we're going to measure 1/4 inch to the outside of that line, and we're just going to trim that off. Just leave 1/4 inch seam allowance. That's all these need. So I'm going to take the lining and I'm going to turn it right side out. I'm not going to worry about pushing out all the corners or anything like that, because even having it kind of scrunched up is going to make it a little easier to line up the tops of the bags together. So I'm just going to put that down inside of the bag, make sure that my handles are staying inside in between the lining and the main, and they're out of the way. And do that side, and then come around and line up the other side. The other thing I would like to do is make sure that any of my extra thread tails that are hanging out along these seams, that they're up and out of the bag. They're not sitting down inside the bag. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is detach the free arm from my machine. I'm going to start here, 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. All right, so now I've got the top of the bag all sewn together, and it's time to turn it right side out for the big reveal. And then a couple of options on this opening here. So we're going to sew it closed. I actually prefer on a lot of my bags to do a little hand stitching. You can iron this and get a nice flat seam allowance here going. Keep it nice and closed, and then if I'm going to machine stitch it, just very, very, very close to the edge. I actually machine stitched this one. So it depends on how much time I have and what threads I have to work with. So I had a slightly off-white thread on this. So you can't really see it, but I'm extremely close to the edge there, so it barely shows up. And then give it a really good press all the way around this top edge. And then you're going to top stitch all the way around the top of the bag. So once you've got this top stitch, you're going to be ready to carry this tote anywhere you want to go. Once again, this is the Ollie Tote. It is the That project from the October subscription box. There's also a bonus That project that you'll be able to do. It is called the Susie Satchel, and we will link to a video to that one in the description box below, so check out that video if you'd like. It uses the fabrics that are left over from this kit, so you'll be able to utilize the fabrics, all of the fabrics that you get in your subscription box kit. Otherwise, thanks for watching. make sure you like and subscribe. Head on over to our website, grab yourself a kit, grab yourself the subscription box if you'd like to start subscribing to that. And thanks for watching. Have a great day.
Okay, you wicked cool quilters, good job. You made it to the end. We would like to thank our sponsors, Husqvarna Viking Sewing Machines, Creative Grids, rulers, rotary cutters, and mats, and Wilmington Prints for the beautiful fabrics. Thanks for watching.